Okay guys, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Now, fasten your seatbelts. Here we go. Alright guys, I'm back and it's Sunday, July 19th, and it is 8:56 p.m. Eastern Time. So let's hope that this will actually get uploaded and processed in a decent time tonight, so some of you can watch it tonight instead of having to wait till tomorrow. Now, not last night, but the night before, I had recorded a second video, and for some reason, the file was corrupted and I wasn't able to use it. Last night, my back has been absolutely, unbelievably bad. So I wrenched it, putting my mom's walker in the car and taking it back out again, and it has not been right since. So I've been working mainly from bed. But anyway, enough of that. And I do have people to thank, but I'm going to wait until the end to do that, and hope that I don't forget. If I do forget, I will pick it up on the next video, because this is going to be at least a double header, at least a double header. All right, so we're going to get into the news, and later I do want to provide you, I'm not sure if I'm going to get into it in this video or the next, but concerning Q and why I feel uncomfortable, I'm going to leave you with a link that has pretty much really, really extraordinary research, and by somebody that is into researching the occult, and I want to provide that link for you guys so that you can check it out and maybe know why I'm feeling uncomfortable without me having to go through, because his research is so, I don't know of anybody that's even touched on any of it. So, and he has made it clear that he doesn't want his research, used. So unless it's to direct them to his link. So I completely respect that, and that's what I'm going to do. But that should provide some answers, and I do have those other Q posts that I feel most uncomfortable with. But I don't know if I'm going to have an opportunity to get into it tonight, because there's a lot of news. Plus there's Q posts, which there's Q posts from the last 2 days, and actually today Q has been posting as well. So we'll see where tonight leads us. Anyway, all right, well, let's just get into the news here, and there's a lot of it. Now, hopefully you're not going to be experiencing too much interference with the microphone, because what was I going to say? Because I have to have it on because the air conditioner is really, really loud and very disruptive to the video. So I do have a fan on, but I think I have it positioned so it's not affecting the mic. So let me know if you experience much interference, or if it's more difficult to hear. Let me know, and I will try to arrange something else. All right, well, here's the first item. It's a video of Black Forest police raid. And remember, if we covered this quite a while ago now, that that is the Rothschilds' human hunting ground. Yes, it is. So let's take a look at this. This is, let me make it bigger for you tiny phone people. I know, I can't forget you guys. All right. Obviously, they're not speaking English. But look at that. I mean, how many police do you need? Apparently a lot. So what's up with that? So I think we've seen it all. It's repeating itself now. So that's interesting, if you ask me. And I don't know underneath here if we have anything. Sometimes people post things beneath that are very, very insightful as well. Well, this is an article about it, but it's obviously in German, which doesn't help me much, but perhaps some of you speak German. And the official story, but I have my doubts after 3,000 pedo arrests just over a week ago and the subsequent investigation into 30,000 more last week. German police hunt dangerous Rambo in Black Forest. Well, and they're saying that's the official story. But do you need that many police to hunt one person? Really? Well, I guess, the Black Forest is quite huge, but I don't know. And it says, I recall a plane crash on an island ages ago that was used to bring investigations in. I don't know what they're talking about there. So anyway, that is something that I'm going to have to, ooh, look at that. The Black Forest in Germany has caused over 15,000 missing person cases in the past year. Wow. So this is something I'm going to have to stay on top of, but fascinating. I don't care what anybody says. All right, and let's go back because there's a lot. Now, look at this. And I think you all know how I feel about this whole coronavirus thing. And really, I do believe that it is a ritual. I do, because it goes back to the Babylonians and the ritual of mask wearing. And it also goes to the fact that your face is your identity. That's how people recognize you. That's how people relate to you, is your face, right? And when you cover that face, it's kind of making you a non-entity. It's muzzling your mouth, for one thing, and it's making you harder to recognize. And I think that by the time we take our masks off, we're going to be into the New World Order. That's just my opinion. I am not stating that as fact. That's just my opinion, because there's a whole lot behind this coronavirus, and it has been planned, and I think that it has been planned to keep the country locked down, to keep us from traveling about and so forth. So I don't know, but there's a lot to be said there, and I need to collect all my thoughts on that into one video because there's so much there. And it just doesn't make sense because, if you've ever had, I don't know how many strains of coronavirus there are, I think 30 some. And so if you've had any of those strains of coronavirus, which includes the flu, you will test positive because apparently these tests are not specifically testing for COVID-19, but COVID. So that's why we're getting a lot of positives. And which makes sense, and why so many people are asymptomatic, because they don't really have it. They had it back whenever they had the flu or whatever. Now, I'm not saying there isn't a coronavirus. There is, yes, and but it's not what they're telling us it is. My opinion. All right, now let's go back here. Oh, sorry, I didn't even touch on this yet. $2,000 a day fine for obstructing coronavirus contact tracing. You don't say. $2,000 a day. It's a little stiff, isn't it? Officials in New York's Rockland County recently got aggressive about contact tracing, issuing subpoenas to 8 partygoers who refused to cooperate with tracking efforts. Hang on here. If the 8 had failed to comply, they would have been subject to fines of $2,000 per day. However, within 24 hours, all 8 acquiesced, signaling that the threat of a monetary fine may be an effective health policy tool to mitigate the spread of coronavirus. Now, I'm not going to go on and read that. I just wanted to kind of touch on that, but that is insane. $2,000 a day. Yeah. And do you know something else? Do you know that the CIA, it used as a tool, they used social distancing as a tool for enemy combatants. They would socially isolate them, and it literally, lowers your immune, it increases stress. They say it's like smoking a pack a day, and it has all sorts of detrimental effects on your health. And this was discovered by the CIA a long time ago, and they have used that. So is this social distancing? for health reasons? I think we know it's not. But it causes deep depression. I know myself, I really have to fight depression day after day because I don't have any contact with anyone. Like my parents now, but most people are so terrified of this fake virus that they don't want to go out and socialize or to come in and have coffee or tea or whatever. So yeah, it causes depression, it lowers your immune system, it causes all sorts of detrimental effects on your health. And I am going to be, maybe not today, but I am going to do a video on that and provide some very informative links for you. Anyway, so there we go. That is that. $2,000 a day for obstructing coronavirus contact tracing. And let's go back because there is a lot to get to, and that's not it. Let me see here. There we go. All right. And okay. Let's look at this. A convicted terrorist sits on board of charity handling Black Lives Matter fundraising. Gee, I'm just absolutely gobsmacked over that. No, I'm not. They act like a terrorist organization. It would make sense that they'd have a terrorist organization sitting on the board of the charity handling it. Wouldn't that make sense? It does to me. Thousand Currents, the California-based charity that manages fundraising operations for the national arm of Black Lives Matter, includes on its board a convicted terrorist whose sentence was commuted by former President Bill Clinton on his last day in office. Well, wasn't that nice of him? Yeah. Susan Rosenberg was identified as the vice chair of the Thousand Currents board of directors on the charity's website until Wednesday, when the page was taken down after the conservative think tank Capital Research Center detailed her involvement with a communist terrorist group that had carried out bombings in New York and Washington, D.C. in the early 1980s. Rosenberg's involvement with the May 19th Communist Organization, which carried out its bombing campaign to create a contrast to former President Ronald Reagan's Morning in America campaign promise, earned her a spot on the FBI's most wanted list, according to the Washington Examiner. She was arrested in New Jersey in 1984 while unloading 740 pounds of stolen explosives and a submachine gun from a truck. Rosenberg was released from prison in 2001 after having her sentence commuted by Clinton, serving 16 of her 58-year prison sentence. U.S. Attorney Mary Jo White lobbied aggressively against Rosenberg's commutation at the time, noting that she had allegedly been one of the getaway drivers in the 1981 Brinks robbery, which resulted in the deaths of 2 police officers and 1 security guard. And she served 16 years, thanks to Clinton, which resulted in the deaths of 2 police officers and 1 security guard. Rosenberg was charged with crimes in the robbery, but those charges were dropped because she was already in prison, the New York Times reported. Does that make sense? Because there's been people in prison that they discover that they're responsible for another murder and they still get charged and they still have to go through that and it's added on to their sentence. That doesn't make any sense to me. Rosenberg was also identified as a member of the Thousand Currents board of directors in the charity's Form 990 submitted to the IRS for its 2016, 2017, and 2018 fiscal years, indicating that the former terrorist has been involved with the group for the entirety of its fiscal sponsorship arrangement with Black Lives Matter Global Foundation, which began in 2016. Financial statements prepared by Thousand Currents reveal that 83.3% of Black Lives Matter Global Foundation's total spending during 2017, 2018, and 2019 fiscal years was spent on travel, consulting, and payroll, while only about 6% was put toward grants to outside organizations such as the local BLM chapters, the Daily Caller News Foundation previously reported. BLM Global Network Managing Director Kaylee Scales told the DCNF the figures do not reflect, for example, the in-kind support for chapters and fundraising directed to chapters and programmatic assistance to chapters that would not show up as direct grants on the audited financials. Oh, I'm sure there's a bunch of stuff that doesn't show up on the audited financials. But maybe that's just me being cynical. In addition to removing the page on its website disclosing Rosenberg as a member of its board of directors, Thousand Currents also took down a page that had disclosed financial information for the charity, such as audits and Form 990s dating back to 2005. Thousand Currents did not return DCNF's request for comment. I wonder why. Why? Well, we know why. BLM Global Network has raised a substantial sum of money since the death of George Floyd, an unarmed black man who died on May 25th in Minneapolis police custody. In recent weeks, the group has announced grant funds totaling $12.5 million after raising more than $1.1 million in donations since Floyd's death. The average donation to BLM Global Network clocked in at $33, the Associated Press reported. So, yeah, doesn't surprise me at all. In fact, you know something? Lately, it seems like nothing surprises me anymore. But again, perhaps I'm cynical. I don't know. Okay, now let's look at this. All right, the Boogaloo tipping point. What happens when a meme becomes a terrorist movement? Yeah. On May 29th, 2 federal security officers guarding a courthouse in Oakland, California, were ambushed by machine gun fire as elsewhere in the city, demonstrators marched peacefully to protest the killing of George Floyd. One of the guards, David Patrick Underwood, died as a result of the attack, and the other was wounded. For days, conservative news broadcasters pinned the blame on Antifa, the loosely affiliated group of anti-fascist anarchists, known to attack property and far-right demonstrators at protests, but the alleged culprit, apprehended a week later, turned out to be a 32-year-old Air Force sergeant named Stephen Carrillo, the head of a squadron called the Phoenix Ravens, which guards military installations from terrorist attacks. The irony. According to prosecutors, Carrillo and an accomplice, 30-year-old Robert A. Justice Jr., were part of the Boogaloo movement, a patchwork of right-leaning anti-government libertarians, Second Amendment advocates, and gun enthusiasts, all preparing for another American Civil War. Authorities say that when they went to apprehend Carrillo at his residence, he attacked them with pipe bombs, killing a police sergeant named Damon Gutzweiler. Investigators found a Boogaloo-themed patch in a vehicle used by Carrillo, and Carrillo had scrawled BOOG along with various Boogaloo slogans in his own blood on the hood of a car. The Boogaloo movement originally grew from the weapons discussion section of the anarchic anonymous message board 4chan over the last several years. By 2019, its culture had disseminated across social media into a mix of online groups and chat servers where users shared libertarian political memes. In the past 6 months, this all began to manifest in real life as users from the groups emerged at protests in what became their signature uniform, aloha shirts and combat gear. As nationwide unrest intensified at the start of the summer, many Boogaloo adherents, who can take a movement by the name of Boogaloo seriously? I'm just saying. Boogaloo. Wasn't there a song back, oh gosh, a long time ago, called Back Off Boogaloo? Never knew what that meant. Wonder if it's associated. I don't know. Anyway, at the start of the summer, many Boogaloo adherents interpreted this as a cue to realize the group's central fantasy, armed revolt against the U.S. government. In Colorado earlier in May, then in Nevada in June, police arrested several others heavily armed, self-identified Boogaloo members who the authorities claimed were on their way to demonstrations to incite violence. Disturbingly, the Boogaloo movement is at least the third example of a mass of memes escaping from 4chan to become a real-life radical political movement, the first being the leftist libertarian hacktivist collective known as Anonymous. It has nothing to do with the Anons. This is a whole different movement, and they are hackers, and they call themselves Anonymous. You know what? They have those wearing the Guy Fawkes mask, and they say, "We are anonymous. Expect us." Anyway, which engaged in 2008. The second was a far-right fascist group of angry young men called the Alt-Right, which formed in 2015. The conspiracy theory QAnon might be considered a fourth, but it is more than a political movement. So, at first glance, right-wing militants dressed in floral shirts may seem like another baffling grotesquerie in the parade of calamities that is 2020. Yes, that's exactly how I would describe 2020, as a parade of calamities, increasing. However, their arrival can be explained by tracing their online origins. Similar to the other right-leaning extremist movements, they are the product of an unhappy generation of men who compare their lot in life with that of men in previous decades and see their prospects diminishing, and with a mix of ignorance and simplicity, they view their discontent through the most distorted lens imaginable, internet memes. Now, of course, this is the Atlantic, and it's left-leaning, so I think that I'm not really sure. This is something that just came onto my radar about this Boogaloo movement, and perhaps some of you know far more than I do about it. So if you could enlighten us in the comments, it would be appreciated, really, because I will readily admit that this is new on my radar, and I really have not researched this much. Well, at all, to tell you the truth. I just want to be honest. So since its founding in 2003, 4chan has attracted a unique population of deeply cynical men. Okay, we don't need to get into all that because there's truth and error in that. The birthplace of the Boogaloo movement, 4chan's K section, is ostensibly devoted to the ownership and purchase of weapons. Well, that should be an alarm. I mean, I'm not against weapons to, protect yourself in your own home. But anyway, the name Boogaloo Boys is a reference to the critically maligned 1984 sequel, Breaking 2, Electric Boogaloo. Around 2012, users on K began referring to the possibility of civil war. 2, Electric Boogaloo, have serious posts about how certain weapons might be employed in the Boogaloo, evolved over time. So that's what they're referring to, the Civil War, which may or may not occur, wouldn't surprise me, is called the Boogaloo. It evolved over time and grew more elaborate. Like many memes on 4chan, each new version was more cryptic than the last, a means to express insider knowledge and group status and in-group status. This meant that the oft-repeated phrase Electric Boogaloo became corrupted into the similar sounding Big Igloo and Big Luau. Big Igloo and Big Luau. Soon, users were creating images in which revolutionaries appeared beside houses made of ice and at Hawaii-themed parties. You know what? That's beginning to make some sense to me because I've seen that. The co-option of Hawaiian imagery and igloos was inherently cynical and meaningless. There was no connection in the group's ideology outside the linguistic resemblance of the word boogaloo to igloo and luau. But this co-option fit the ethos of online spaces perfectly, with a niche group celebrating its anti-government libertarian views by draping them in colorful jokes and nonsense that could be remixed and reinterpreted endlessly. Now, this is a very long article, but it is from the Atlantic, and it is called The Boogaloo Tipping Point: What Happens When a Meme Becomes a Terrorist Movement. And they obviously are now considered a domestic terrorist group. So something else to be, I guess, concerned about. I know we have to trust the Lord, but yeah, there's a lot of things happening simultaneously, very quickly. And all this COVID stuff is keeping our focus on that when it should be on everything else. It is a major, major distraction. All right, I think I'm going to leave that there and go on. If you guys know anything about this movement or can inform me about anything or links or whatever, please leave it. Now, if you leave a link, unless I have actually, there are some listeners that I have just stated because I know them well enough after, this, they've been since the beginning. They've been with me, so I've just said that everything that they post is safe because I trust them. But if you post a link, sometimes it'll go into a separate kind of queue for me to approve. So if you do post a link, I will go in that queue and release you so that you're not in, YouTube jail. All right. Now let's come down here. This is from Paris, Paris Denard. In Joe Biden's America, police are defunded. Communities are less safe. Taxes go up. Opportunity zones will drop. Charter schools will end. Parents won't have school choice. Jobs will go to China. Big government control will reign. Gas prices will increase, and we lose. Now that is very concisely and accurately stated, because that's exactly what a Joe Biden's America would look like. Exactly. And it's a little disconcerting, actually, that so many people are just saying, oh, I'm going to vote for Biden because I don't like Trump. They don't care what Biden stands for. They just don't like Trump. That's dangerous. All right, and let's look at this. This is quickly becoming a huge issue in China. The flooding has gotten bad enough that the Chinese are taking dump trucks and pushing them into breaches in the earthworks that protect Wuhan from floodwater. So it's interesting. They have received all this rain. There is catastrophic flooding. And the Three Gorges Dam, which was once, when you looked at it from air, straight as an arrow across, it looks more like a snake now because it's bulging from the water. And they are saying that in all likelihood it will collapse. I think they've released some water to kind of lessen the pressure, but it's flooding downstream now. And guess what's downstream? Wuhan. And apparently there's 11 million people in the path of this water. And if that dam broke, the flooding would be so catastrophic, there probably would not be any survivors. That's what they're saying. So I don't know, but it's not good. And what is this? Says, and you can trust the Three Gorges Dam if you want to, but China's track record remains a bit spotty on large projects. And there you have a bridge collapsing. It's really collapsing there, isn't it? I'm sorry, you tiny phone people. You're probably going, remember us, we can't see. Yeah. Yeah, so anyway, their track record is very spotty. So yeah, don't trust anything that they say. And if they say the dam is safe, when anybody with eyes to see can see that it's bulging, it looks more like a snake now than an arrow. So yeah, and see, things like this make me sick. I don't know if you can read that. I don't want to say it out loud. Basically, thank you, Lord, for punishing, and this word right here. That's not what God's doing. God's not punishing the people. It's not their fault. The people of China did not release a virus. The people didn't. Someone did. But the people suffered along with the rest of the world. So I don't like that kind of thinking. And it says, all gates of Wuhan are closed. The urban area of Wuhan is 23.3 meters above sea level. The current water level is 28 meters. The water level is 4 meters above the ground. The Yangtze River is already a hanging river above the citizens of Wuhan. If the Three Gorges Dam breaks, it'll probably be a catastrophe unlike this world has. Well, think about it. If it wiped out 11 million people like that, that would be a catastrophe that unlike we've seen before, I would imagine. Unless there's something happened in ancient history that I'm not aware of. But even then, the population was so sparse, I doubt that there could be 11 million people die. All right, so anyway, we're going to go on. Really, we are. All right, so, and let's look at this. And now they're warning of stronger floods. China is warning of stronger floods. This is the dam in question. China warns of stronger flood as Three Gorges Dam faces swell. I like to get my news, like this is the Asian Review, and I like to get my news from there because, as you know, we don't get the right news here, so I like to go right to the source if I can and find stuff. But Shanghai, Chinese authorities warned on Friday of the arrival of a stronger flood at the Three Gorges Dam and issued new alerts in downstream cities as more rain are expected in the coming days. You know, the other thing that this flood, and I believed this way back. I believed that there were far more people that died in Wuhan than the Chinese ever admitted because they had crematoriums going 24/7. And they brought in all sorts of mobile crematoriums, and you could see that people were dying in the streets. There was, you know, there were reports of people being put in body bags and taken to the crematorium before they were actually even dead. So I believe that there's a lot of death there, and I don't think they want the international community, of course, investigating in any way. They've kept them out. But wouldn't it be convenient? Because I really believe, now I could be out there, but I really believe from all the footage that was, you know, gotten out of there, and those people disappeared, by the way. Those people risked their very lives to get this information out, and some people probably paid with their lives getting it out. And, you know, they said that the city was basically empty afterwards, not totally, of course, but compared to the 11 million that were there. And so I don't know, would this flood be a way of covering that up, covering all the traces, wiping it away? They could say, well, they died in the flood. You know, I don't know. I'm just positing it. But all right, cities in the country's central region along the Yangtze River, China's longest river, have been inundated in the past week amid the annual monsoon season, with the worst flooding since 1998 across the country. 433 rivers. There's that 33. You can almost, when you see a lot of 33s in an article, you can just about bet that well, I think you guys know what I'm saying, don't you? If you don't, put it in the comments and I'll try to make it clear. Anyway, across the country, 433 rivers have flooded and 141 people have died or are missing. Heavy downpours have been lashing, and see, when they report 141 people have died or are missing, yeah, I don't believe that. I don't believe their numbers at all. They try to put on this brave face to the rest of the world. They don't want the rest of the world knowing what's really going on. Anyway, heavy downpours have been lashing the region since last month, pushing average rainfall 12% higher than last year. The economic damage from flooding is expected to reach 86.2 billion won, 12 billion, according to some estimates. This comes as China's economy just swung back into positive territory in the second quarter. The government announced Wednesday it will spend about 1.7 billion won on measures to deal with the floods. At the Three Gorges Dam, a multifunctional facility on the Yangtze River that includes flood prevention, upstream flooding is expected to cause a swell of water reaching 55,000 cubic meters per second. Wow. At 8 p.m. local time on Friday, higher than the warning level of 50,000 cubic meters, according to the Water Resource Commission. Wow. So the flooding is expected to cause a swell of water reaching 55,000 cubic meters per second, and the safety level or the warning level is 50,000 cubic meters. Yeah. So this will be stronger than the year's first peak of 53,000 cubic meters recorded on July 2nd. Dam authorities have already discharged water on June 29th in anticipation of the flood. They maintained that flooding, which came after that in downstream cities, was not caused by the discharge, but was rather due to poor drainage systems. Right. We believe them, don't we? Sure we do. Thousands wouldn't, but we do. Despite the dam reaching a new flooding record this year, authorities have yet to indicate whether they will release more water in the coming days. However, residents in the central city Wuhan and provinces of, I can't pronounce these Chinese names, some of the places downstream of the dam have been most severely hit by the water levels this year, received a red alert on Friday, the highest level of a 4-tier weather warning system. So, yeah. That's got to be an old picture, because the pictures that I've seen have it bending. So that's got to be an old picture. Anyway, just wanted to let you guys know of that, because that would be a massive humanitarian crisis, unparalleled in our lifetime. Anyway, all right. Okay. And let's look at this. Strange, I hear helicopters again. All right. Breaking: Portland Antifa and Black Lives Matter launch explosives at federal building while barricading agents inside. Why isn't something being done about this? Really, why? When I mention helicopters, there is an airport, like, gosh, I could walk to it probably. Well, if my back wasn't bad, I could. And I'm in the flight path, but helicopters are kind of a strange phenomena around here, because you only hear them when there's a search and rescue going on. And who knows, because everybody's out on the water these days, so you just never know. I'm by huge bodies of water here. Okay, Portland Antifa and Black Lives Matter launched explosives at the federal courthouse and justice center while attempting to barricade agents inside on the 50th night of riots in the ultra-liberal city. There was also severe violence against random citizens that they disagree with politically during Friday night's chaos. So, yeah, let's take a look at this.
You got Rage Against the Machine in the background. I mean, it makes you wonder, like, they're pretty good about tactically moving. Is this where they're focusing their attention, or are they going to pop out of another entrance? I would hope that we have somebody else who's able to see what's going on from another angle.
They're playing drums? Sounds like it.
It makes you wonder. Makes you wonder, like I said, where are they going to come out of? Obviously, they're not going to walk out into this crowd, but they are going to come out. I would assume it's going to be from behind us right over here. They have federal agents in both of these buildings. Like I said, there you go. I told you. Was it? Okay.
You know, this is just getting way, way over the top. And let's look at this. So what was it that they were barricaded in? Was it a federal building? Yeah, federal building, while barricading agents inside. Lovely. Nice people.
You see that fence is going up pretty quick.
Sorry.
Never.
Okay, I can't handle too much more of that. It's just a lot of noise and yelling, and I didn't see any explosive launch, but that's what they're claiming happened, and this is Gateway Pundit. They're usually pretty good about that. This is yesterday's news. And here's more video, but it says the Portland police tweeted, officers have observed people in the area of the federal courthouse and justice center on Southwest 3rd Avenue place fencing and sandbags in front of doors. This is criminal behavior. Participants not involved in criminal behavior are encouraged to leave the area immediately. Yeah, because they're probably attempting to set the building on fire with those people inside. And would they care? Would they care if there was police or agents killed? No. They would think that that was a bonus for their cause, which is sick. Really sick. And it says 50th night of riots in Portland. They are barricading the agents in the federal building, blocking the entrances with fencing tape. Fencing a tape? I don't know. And here, officers have observed people in the area of the federal courthouse. Okay. Yeah, we read that before. And let's see what else is down here. A street preacher was violently assaulted and carried away by a mob. A witness at the scene said that a gun had been pulled on him. The witness also said another man was tied to a fence, beat, and then had the fence pushed over on top of him. These are lovely people. Just the type you'd like to have over for tea and crumpets. Don't you think? Yeah. Yeah. Far-left protesters, rioters, and their supporters in Portland talk about protecting free speech, but when someone they don't like enters a public demonstration, they assault them and physically force them out. This is all about making the streets only for them. And it's all about causing unrest, and this is all being fueled. None of this is by mistake. None of this happened organically. It didn't just spring up because George Floyd died. It didn't. The rioters also deployed smoke bombs and lasers, which they used to impede the vision of police officers. Portland protesters see shooting fireworks at the scene. Should say Portland protesters seen shooting fireworks, or I don't know. People can't spell anymore. Spell or do grammar. Around 1:30 a.m. local time, the Portland Police Department tweeted that participants have 5 minutes to remove all barricades around the facility. Failure to follow this direction may subject you to arrest, citation, or use of force, including crowd control munitions. Leave the area to the west, Southwest Columbia to Southwest Taylor from Southwest 1st to 6th is closed. The event downtown has been deemed an unlawful assembly. People gathering around the Justice Center are interfacing with the operations of both government and county facilities. Participants have 5 minutes to remove the barricade. Okay, we read that. Shortly after the 5 minutes were up, law enforcement began shooting massive amounts of tear gas into the crowd to disperse them, according to a live streamer on the scene. They also tore down the barricades set up by the rioters. Like, how long is this going to go on? A Twitter user who goes by the name of Maria Vitti has been diligently archiving important footage from various riot live streams across the country for months. You can follow the account here for more footage of the shocking violence tearing apart our cities. And it's good that people are videotaping it, because later that can be used to arrest them and identify them and so forth. So, yeah. Anyway, none of that should surprise us, but it's just, it just keeps going in Portland and other areas. So let's go on now. Oh, yes. And about the killing tech, Apparently it was his personal assistant that did it. And I don't know. That's what they're saying anyway. So I'm not even going to go to that story. And because we got a lot to get to. Okay, let's look at this. In a press conference today, Portland Mayor Ted Wheeler blames Donald Trump and the DHS.gov for Antifa riots in Portland. A reporter then points out the riots were already happening for 5 straight weeks before DHS came. Yeah, let's look at this.
President Trump and the Department of Homeland Security have shown that this is an attack on our democracy. I stand with our senators, representatives, and our state, county, and city leaders in denouncing their presence. Over the past week, President Trump has used our city as a staging ground to further his political agenda, igniting his base to cause further divisiveness, and in doing so, endangering Portlanders. President Trump has gone so far as vowing that federal law enforcement will, quote, dominate, unquote, protesters and mobilize federal agencies to operate in cities. This is an explicit abuse of power and places federal officers and Oregonians in danger. Mr. President, federal agencies should never be used as your own personal army.
Well, then you do the job.
This is not.
He hasn't taken action.
Theater. This is far more dangerous than that. We have federal officers on our streets further escalating tensions and causing harm to Portlanders right now. Mr. President, we see right through you. We see what you're doing. So do us a favor. Keep your troops in your own buildings or have them leave our city.
My question is for the mayor. The federal government says that they wouldn't have come into the city if city leaders had gotten a handle on the riots. What's your plan to get a handle on the violence? And you say that we can handle it better than the feds can, but we haven't heard or seen a plan to stop vandalism or the riots even prior to the federal government or federal officers getting into town.
And what we saw was the numbers were dwindling, the energy in the crowd was decreasing, and people were moving elsewhere to do other things. Then the feds came in on the heels of some really inflammatory public messaging coming out of Washington, D.C., from the president directly, as well as the Department of Homeland Security, and they blew the whole thing back up again.
Yeah, right. He must think we're stupid, really. And if he would do his job, then they wouldn't have to go in there and do it for him. They're not taking control of their city. I bet you the normal citizens of Portland were happy. I bet you. I mean, I can't say that for a fact, but do we have any listeners here from Portland that could weigh in on that? I know Portland's a very, very liberal city, but if we happen to have any listeners from Portland, please weigh in on that. How do the general public feel about the feds being there? I mean, I know if I was there and that was my city and there was unrest happening, I'd be happy to see it. I'd be happy to anyone to put an end to it. So let's go on now because we can. And where did I go here? Don't want him. Let's go back here. All right, and let's look at this. Yeah, and apparently this is covered in, because I saw this before I saw the Q post, but let's take a look at this. It says you will never look at your childhood the same again, and Q actually links to this, but let's just take a look at this. It says, meanwhile, Honest John and Gideon were at a tavern. A fat coachman was there too. Honest John bragged about how much money Stromboli had paid them for Pinocchio. I pay even more for small boys, said the coachman. He then showed them a sack full of gold. The coachman told Honest John his scheme. He brought boys to a place called Pleasure Island. He said no boys ever return, at least not as boys. Honest John decided to catch more small boys. Then, just as Pinocchio and I were racing home to Geppetto, I ran very fast. I didn't see Honest John stop Pinocchio until it was too late. Now, isn't that interesting? This guy, who is it that, see, it's been so long since I read the Pinocchio tale. Okay, so Stromboli had paid them for Pinocchio, and it's Stromboli that said, I'd pay even more for small boys. And he has all this gold. And where does he take them? To Pleasure Island, where they don't return, at least not as boys. Now, what does that sound like to you? Sure sounds like, something we've seen in the news lately. And Pleasure Island has so much of a tie-in with Disney, and I think that Disney, we're going to find that they are a heck of a lot more involved than we think they are. And so it says you will never look at your childhood the same again. Yeah. It's interesting that when I read that story, that never registered to me as strange. Now reading it, I'm like, what? Pretty odd. Very odd. Okay. Let's go back now. I haven't gotten very far tonight. Okay, David Nino Rodriguez, Bank of America just gave Black Lives Matter $1 billion. That's war money, ladies and gentlemen. It's coming. I believe that. I do believe that. And Bank of America, I remember visiting that with a friend of mine. It's in Charlotte. That's where their headquarters is, and they have some bizarre murals, very, very new age, very apocalyptic, and maybe sometime we'll take a look at those murals. I've got hair in my eyes. I don't know why, but I do. It's like a hair on my eyeball. Dan Bongino says Antifa is the most dangerous pro-fascism group in America right now. They're using violence and intimidation to try to push fascism here in America. Fascism is their calling card. It's what they want. Absolutely it is. I have a lot of respect for Dan Bongino. Very, very smart man. And yeah. All right. Let's look at this. Crew, Citizens for Responsibility and Ethics in Washington, files ethics complaint against Ivanka Trump, and that is because of her holding up the can of Goya beans. So I'm not going to get into that. I just wanted to let you guys know that that's what they're doing. But I'm a little troubled, and hopefully I'll get into that in another thing, about the connections between Trump, Goya beans, and Jeffrey Epstein. I know. I need to get into it, but first I need to understand it a bit better. All right. So, let's go back. Not saying that Trump has done anything wrong. I don't know. Well, he's flesh and blood. It's not like he's incapable of doing something wrong. Okay, David Nino Rodriguez, Bank of America, we just got that. So why did I put it there again? I don't know. Brain damage, perhaps? I don't know. And I can't remember what this is. What is this? Oh yes, couple in house arrest after refusal to quarantine for COVID-19, and now they're in house arrest. I think we're going to be seeing more and more of this, people. Louisville, Kentucky. Hang on here. I have a feeling this is just going to automatically start playing. Louisville, Kentucky, a Kentucky couple is under house arrest after one of them tested positive for coronavirus and refused to sign self-quarantine papers. Elizabeth Linscott got tested for COVID-19 because she was planning to go visit her parents. My grandparents wanted to see me too, so just to make sure that, if I tested negative, that would be okay, everything would be fine, Linscott said. After testing positive, but without showing any symptoms, Linscott told Wave TV the health department contacted her requesting she sign documents. I agree to comply to call the health department if I was to go. I was to call the health department if I was to leave my house for any reason, she said, but she chose not to sign. I had gotten a message from them, a text message that stated, because of your refusal to sign, this is going to be escalated and law enforcement will be involved, she said. Later that week, the county sheriff greeted Linscott's husband, Isaiah, at their front door. I opened the door and there's like 8 people there, 5 different cars, and I'm like, what the heck's going on? This guy's in a suit with a mask. It's the health department guy, and they have 3 papers for us, for me, her, and my daughter, she said. The couple was ordered to wear ankle monitors. If they travel more than 200 feet, law enforcement will be notified. Can you believe this? That this is happening in America? We didn't rob a store, we didn't steal something, we didn't hit and run, we didn't do anything wrong, Linscott said. The couple said they never denied self-quarantining, they just didn't agree with the wording of the documents. And that's exactly what the director of public health department told the judge, that I was refusing to self-quarantine because of this, and I'm like, that's not the case at all. I never said that, she said. Linscott said even without the ankle monitor, she had planned to be cautious, and if she had needed medical care, she would have let healthcare workers know she was infected with the virus. And I'll tell you something, I think that this whole COVID thing is just convenient. It's just a convenient way to bring in these more and more restrictive measures and bring in the whole COVID pass, which they have already mandated in some countries in Europe, and which is a Bill Gates thing. And, without that, you're not going to be able to, if they bring that in, which they're gonna, you wait and see. And they'll say, this is what they'll say. No, it's not mandatory. It's not mandatory. Who said it was mandatory? No, it's not mandatory. But the thing is, you're not going to be able to go anywhere. You're not going to be able to enter a store or anything else unless you have this COVID pass that says you're not a harm to everyone else. And we know how accurate the tests are, don't we? So yes, they'll say, no, it's not mandatory, but you can't go to the grocery store. You can't get on a bus. You can't fly. You can't leave your state. You can't even leave your city. So really, it's not mandatory? I don't know. I'm really seeing this control grid coming into play here, and it worries me a bit. And I know, don't tell me trust the plan. I only trust God. First of all, everyone else is flesh and blood. Now, yes, there's people that I trust because over the years they've proven trustworthy. But, do you think I'm going to blindly trust what the government is telling me? No. And neither should you. And you shouldn't trust what I'm telling you. Check it out. We don't want to be blindly led by anything or anyone. But, check out, and I'm hoping to do some more stuff about the COVID pass and what all that involves. But it's not good. And, they are quickly developing this vaccine. They're saying, no, it's not mandatory. But what'll happen if you work in, healthcare or schools, or they're going to say, well, if you don't have the vaccine, though, sorry, you can't work here. You can't work unless you've had the vaccine. Or big corporations, do you think they're not going to make you have a vaccine to work? They are. Of course they are. Because they'll say, well, that's the only way. It's the only way that we can know that you don't have it. Yeah, so I know everybody says, well, Donald Trump said it won't be mandatory. No, it won't be mandatory. But what are you going to do if you don't have it? You know that they're going to require it before your kids go to school, before, you work in the healthcare field, before you work as a teacher, and it'll spread out from there. These things always do. They always do. It's not that I don't trust Trump. He's speaking the truth. It's not mandatory. Okay, it's not mandatory. But, there you go. All right, now let's go back here. And I'm sorry because I know some of you, it's a little bit too much truth for you. And you're going to be upset with me. And I know that. But you know what? I'm going to speak the truth as I see it. And if I'm wrong, you know what? I'll be the first one to say, oh man, I missed it on that. I was really wrong. I'm just flesh and blood too. I make errors. We all do. But in terms of logical thinking and looking at the big picture, don't just isolate. See, a lot of people get in trouble interpreting scripture because the Bible says to consider the whole counsel of God, which means all of the Bible. You can't just pull things out of context. And you can't just look at one thing and go, oh, well, everything's all right because of this. No, you have to look at the big picture, everything. And once you look at the big picture, research everything, look at what's happening, what laws are being instituted, what they're working on, then, you can state, well, it's still an educated guess, but you can, it's like when you see the clouds gathering and the wind pick up, that there's probably rain or wind or storm coming, right? Well, that's the same way. You look at everything that's happening around you and you judge where you're at. So anyway, okay, let's, I'm just going to hit on a couple more things here because I'm getting over and I still have one or two more videos to do. So let me look at this and I'm going to hit on one more thing and that'll be it for tonight. Yes, what the heck happened to this woman? That is not Kamala Harris. Who the heck is that? And her eyes, have you ever seen, well, I've seen it one time when a person, no, actually, two times I have witnessed this. I could name the people, I could name the time, where somebody's eyes went completely black. And it was literally the hair on the back of my neck, my arms, my legs all stood up. It freaked me out. And all of a sudden, this fear came on me like I had never experienced in my life. It's kind of like you're just looking death in the face. It was very, very odd. And both times I had the exact same reaction to it. Those are those eyes. Look it, they're all black. That is the most bizarre, and she looks ghoulish. Let me just, and you know what? I'm not, because I don't care what she says. I just want to, I'm going to turn this down. Watch her expressions. And you tell me if you think that's Kamala Harris. And this person's teeth are messed up. Kamala Harris has wonderfully straight, beautiful teeth. The real Kamala Harris. So something's happened. Either she's had a really bad facelift, and I don't know, that wouldn't explain the teeth though. But let's just watch this.
Obviously among our most honored ancestors.
She looks ghoulish to me. And those eyes are just plain freaky. I have seen that before. Let me tell you, I have seen it before. Both times it was demonic. And if you don't believe in the demonic, then you probably don't believe in the other side of that. But when you have, it's real and I've experienced it, let me tell you. Yeah. So, anyway, I just think that this is just about the most bizarre thing I've ever seen. And her expressions are just, well, not only do her eyes freak me the heck out, but I don't know. And what it says, Senator Kamala Harris remembers Congressman John Lewis and calls for the John Lewis Voting Rights Act. Whatever that is, I don't know. But look at this. Look at those eyes. They're black. Now, I don't know what. Yeah, and that's not her, but that's another black eye. And when you see that, the two times I've seen it, it was demonic because everything stood up. The hairs on the back of my neck stood up, and this fear came on me that I can't even explain. I've never felt fear like that, and I'm not a fearful person. I picked up and left and went to the States by myself, to a city I'd never been to, and just picked up and moved, and I picked up and moved to Louisiana by myself. So yeah, it's not like I'm a fearful person. I moved out when I was 17. I moved to Toronto, put myself through school several times, and I'm not fearful. So for me to experience fear like that was very unnatural. Anyway, let's come down here and look at this. Look at the difference between these two women. Now, it does look somewhat like her because the nostrils and everything are similar. This one has a little bit of a fuller face, if you ask me. And I think Kamala, well, maybe, I don't know. I was going to say maybe her face is a little bit longer. But this, now down here, these teeth do look the same. But I'm telling you, I don't know. And there, somewhere else I had something. Let's see if there's anywhere else that has this. Yeah, look at the two talking here. That's 7/18/20. So there's July 10th and there's July 18th. Look at them. Is that the same person? Has she had plastic surgery? But what about her eyes? What's up with that? I don't know. But let me know in the comments below because I'd love to hear what you guys have to say. And let me see here. I'm going to go back and I'm going to thank some people. And then I'm going to close off, get this uploaded, and start with another video just for you guys. Because I missed last night and I feel, slightly guilty about that. Although I really, I was in so much pain. I took something for pain and I slept through when I should have done my show. That's the honest truth. I'm just, So I don't generally like to take anything for pain unless I'm literally out of my head with pain. All right. So the following, you guys have been donating, and thank you very much. I appreciate that. Because I know I did lose some support there, and it helps make up for that. So thank you so much. The following donated via coffee: Jim Brubaker, KC in New York, Sunny, Rach and Chula the boxer, meaning it's a dog, it's a boxer. And Rach and Chula the boxer have donated before, and thank you very much. I appreciate it. And Wendy S. and Mississippi Mindy. I like that name, Mississippi Mindy. Anon, D. Parker, Marcia, Lillian Z, and Naomi. Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it. It helps me do what I do. And yeah. All right. And also picked up a new Patreon subscriber, D. Bays. So thank you guys. I appreciate it. I appreciate it very, very much. I appreciate you guys that contribute in other ways as well, such as prayer and, commenting and adding to the discussion. It all helps. Thank you guys so much. And I'm going to sign off now, but I will be back. That's a warning. Yeah. So anyway, I'm coming back. I'm just going to get this uploaded and get it processing, and I will be recording another. So probably by the time you're finished with this one, the next one will be up. All right. All right, guys, stay safe, stay well, stay blessed, and keep seeking truth.